I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. I'm going to turn the microphone over to Ms. Rollo, and I'd like to ask my colleagues to move to a seat in the audience so we can get a better view of our guest artist tonight.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair, board members, Superintendent Andrew, and district administrators. It's a pleasure to be here this evening to highlight our amazing fine arts programs in the district. This month's beautiful artwork is brought to us by Shell Elementary on boards 1 and 4, Rebecca Quiroga, art teacher, Lincoln Middle School art teacher Jasmine Laska. Their artwork is on boards 2 and 3, directly behind the board members, and Rawlings Elementary, Christy Campbell, art teacher, and their artwork is behind me on boards 5 and 6. Thank you to the art teachers and their students for your creativity and dedication to making the world a more beautiful place. And tonight, our performers this evening are from the Howard Bishop Middle School Chorus under the direction of Jackie Collins. They will be performing an arrangement of Old Joe Clark, which is an American folk song, and You'll Be Back from the musical Hamilton by Lin-Manuel Miranda. Please welcome Howard Bishop Middle School Chorus and their director, Jackie Collins.
To
struggle through it all. And when push comes to shove, I will send a fully armed battalion to remind you of my love. You say your love is draining and you can't go on. You'll be the one complaining when I am gone. And no, don't change the subject, 'cause you're my favorite subject. My sweet, submissive subject. My loyal, loyal subject. Forever and ever, ever and ever and ever and ever. You'll be back like before. I will fight the fight and win the war. For your love, for your praise, and I'll love you till my dying days. When you're gone, I'll go mad. So don't go away this thing we had. 'Cause when push comes to shove, I will find your friends and family to remind you of my love.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for the performance. It was just terrific. Thank you, Ms. Collins. It is, what a great way to start a meeting. Maybe we could just do this for the whole meeting. That would be pretty neat. I'm just so proud of you and what a wonderful performance. I don't care what the level is, middle school or high school or elementary or professional. You guys are just terrific. And just that's, so thank you. And I have a strange feeling there'll be some other people that want to say something too. Dr. McNeely. Well, you know you're going to say something.
All right. My light wasn't on, but I want to say something anyway. Excellent performance. I'd like to know when you are having one for the community, for them to come in, because I want to come back to hear. But you are fantastic. I hope you realize that. I hope you know it. I hope you've heard that enough. You are fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Russell.
I want to say thank you to each one of you for being here tonight. You are absolutely wonderful. I hope you continue with chorus and music when you get into high school, because every one of you are just wonderful. And I thank you for being here. And I thank you to Mrs. Collins for such a fantastic job.
Dr. Paulson.
Yeah, well, thank you. And You guys look like you were having fun, were you? Because I had fun, and it's great to go to school and have that kind of fun in it. So when you bring everybody, like Dr. McNeely said, every place we go, I just think people love to hear you.
Ms. Surden.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Boys and girls, thank you so much for coming tonight, to your families. Thank you all for bringing them out so that they could grace us with those 2 selections and keep working hard. And as has been said, you all were fantastic. And if any of you had a case of the nerves before you started, I could tell that it all dissipated and you did wonderful. So good job to you all, and thank you all for coming again. And like Dr. McNeely said, if you have a spring concert or some concert in the future, please do invite the board.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Mr. Hyatt.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Ansha.
Thank you, Chairman Hyatt. So just thanks, like everyone has said, y'all are awesome. Thanks for lifting up our spirits. And more importantly, we appreciate you letting your lights shine through music. And just, you know, you all already know this, but music lifts everybody's soul. And so thank you for being part of this evening and sharing your joy with us through music.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you very much, and look forward to your next performance. I'd like to also say welcome to Mr. Gamble in the back. Thank you. I know he's proud of you. Okay, we're going to move ahead with the ACEA update. Dr. Tessman and President Ward.
Well, we have no business following them. They did a great job, but we'll try. I'm Service Unit Director for ACEA. Hello. Thank you for having us and for letting us speak once a month. Just wanted to update you on a couple things. We have our ESP Appreciation, Education Support Professional Appreciation, that started, well, we're celebrating all month so that we can make it out to every work site. Sonic has been kind enough to donate 1,500 coupons again this year so that every ESP can have a special treat. And Wawa joined us this year for 250 coupons so that several work sites could get an additional prize. Obviously, that's just a small token of our appreciation for what ESPs do every day. We'll also have a raffle for 10 prizes for just ACEA members, but everything else is for members and non-members alike. And of course, we appreciate all the teachers and professional technicals and administrators as well, but November is for ESPs. We just sent out some professional development opportunities to our members in email. So there's lots to look out for if you are a member and you get our emails. One of the really important ones we wanted to highlight was backed by popular demand on December 6th is the LGBTQ plus issues professional development. And we know how important those issues are at all times, and especially in our state at this time. Speaking of that, we definitely don't know how any of our members are voting, but we want to report that so far in early voting, 45% of our members who are registered to vote have voted, but only 26% of their household members have voted. So if you are a member who is registered to vote and your family members are registered to vote, bring them to the polls, please. Early voting is still going on. Voting is so important. And last but not least, we have
well, for me, we are back at the table for education support professionals and instructional for bargaining. And so you still have time to give Ms. Ward and myself input if you didn't answer the survey or you thought of something new for contract language. We definitely know that everybody is concerned about compensation. So we have that for sure written down. But if you have any ideas for how to make your working conditions better, we're all ears.
Thank you. I'm Carmen Ward. I am the president of Alachua County Education Association, and I'm happy to be here with you. And as Dr. Tessman said, we are back at the bargaining table for instructional language, and I do want to encourage all the instructional members that are out there to send us your ideas for contract language. We have a contract that started in 1975. So we have a rich contract full of rights. And I did send out those contracts, those collective bargaining agreements to all the members at the beginning of the year. And I'm going to send them out again just to remind people that you have rights and to be aware of your rights. It's all of the union members' jobs to enforce the contract. And so with that being said, I wanted to say that one of the concerns and frustrations that comes to my attention a lot is issues with discipline, as I've spoken about before at this meeting. And the discipline committee has met. The union has representation on a committee that looks at the student code of conduct and is meeting district-wide. It recently met, and it has scheduled meetings throughout the year, but we do have representation. I want to clarify that. We also have some student discipline language in the contract, and so if you haven't looked at that, please do. And we also, one of the other frustrations that I'm hearing about that I want to address a bit is the problem with the lack of substitutes. Daily, I get concerns and questions and frustrations from teachers about the substitute crisis that we're in. The shortage is a crisis. And it's not just teachers that are suffering, but it is students, it is the administration as well. And I just feel like there's more we could do, and we have to think outside of the box, because right now the service that we have isn't meeting our needs. And so there really needs to be some serious reconsideration of what we're doing with the substitute crisis. We did present at the table, and that we're not negotiating right now, but we did propose compensation for teachers that are asked to cover for other teachers, because that does not exist at this time. And so we did propose that at the table. So I just wanted to address some of those concerns that come to my attention. And we have a really awesome trauma benefit that is new since the pandemic for all of our union members. If they have experienced any kind of trauma, if they are a union member, we have services to cover that 100% at no cost to the union members. And that's a new thing through the American Federation of Teachers since the pandemic. And all that is required is a letter from the president of the local union to verify that they have had a traumatic experience and are in need of counseling. And that's 24/7 through text, video, and phone counseling. So I think that's an awesome thing to share about the union. One last thing is that we have nominated one of our education support professionals to be the FEA, NEA, ESP, that's a lot of initials, Education Support Professional of the Year for 2023. And who we have nominated for that is Albert Alvarez at GHS. So I just wanted to share all that with you. Thank you, Chair Hyatt and Board and Superintendent. And that is all.
Well, thank you very much, and it is, I think I'm very glad that we have this relationship. We don't have to always agree, but we do. I don't know if any other districts in the state have a carved out time for announcements, and I think it's been very helpful, and it helps us know what we need to know. So I hope that'll be continued in the future. Dr. Pauls.
Yeah, when you say you need people, in the secondary schools, we don't have the biggest problem as we have in the elementary, do we? Because, if you teach an extra period in the secondary, you get 1 divided by, I guess if they teach 5, they get 20% extra. And the same, they get, yeah.
Wait,
Well, you could,
can't do this back and forth.
okay, well, you could do that though with it. That'd be an idea. Now, I don't know about the elementary. It's just an idea, but it'd be worth it.
Superintendent Andrew? Okay. I will say that I was driving in our neighboring county last week, and when you drive past the school board building in Palatka, on the signs you say, or that you read, substitutes needed. And then you read, right after that, you read, bus drivers needed. And I know that when we were, the last FSBA conference that I attended in June, it was a problem that everybody had. Now, that in no way means it doesn't qualify as a crisis. I believe that it does. So, but that's just saying we're not alone, but that doesn't excuse us from trying to fix it the best we can. Okay, moving to the adoption of the agenda. The action item consent agenda item is this 6 and 11 are both being pulled and they'll be addressed as action items. So 6 will become action item 2, and 11 will become action item 3. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda as adjusted?
Move to accept the agenda as modified with consent agenda items 6 and 11 being moved to action items.
Okay, do I have a second? Motion by Ms. Surden, seconded by Ms. Russell. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Do I have a motion to approve the regular school board workshop minutes from October 12th, 2022?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Motion by Ms. Surden, seconded by Ms. Russell. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And that was a workshop. I think I said meeting. That was the workshop. Next, do I have a motion to approve the regular school board meeting minutes for October 18th, 2022. Motion by Dr. McNeely. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Surton. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Board member superintendent announcements. Dr. McNeely.
Thank you, Chairman Hyatt. I want to publicly thank Board Member Surton for establishing and organizing the new board member orientation. It was something that had benefited, or I should say benefit, the new board members coming on board, as well as the old board members who's staying on the board. I want to also thank every single department that we were expecting to hear from you. You came through with all kind of information. In fact, so much information that we'll probably have another round before we go home for the winter break. I also want to thank Mrs. Green and Mrs. Peck, both from the superintendent's office, for the wonderful breakfast, lunch, snacks. I'm going to always put food in there because you can't operate without that. And they did such an excellent job in preparing those things for us. It was a great day, a long day, but a day needed. Thank you, Ms. Surton. Thank you to the superintendent who stayed with us for the full day as well, and to everyone else who participated.
Thank you, Dr. McNeely. Dr. Paulson.
That's all right.
Okay, Superintendent Andrew.
Thank you, Chairman Hyatt. So I just wanted to mention to everybody, some of you already know this, our high school marching bands participated in the Florida Bandmasters Association Marching Music Performance Assessment, known as MPA, this past Saturday at Santa Fe High School up in Alachua. And I just wanted to congratulate all of our bands, Eastside High School, Buchholz High School, Newberry High School, Santa Fe High School, Gainesville High School. All of our bands received a final rating of superior in the competition. And so I just wanted to acknowledge their hard work, their training, and the time they spent preparing for MPA up at Santa Fe High School this past week. And so again, you know, just like tonight, the arts were in motion last Saturday. So, and that always tends to happen. They tend to do their MPA on the Georgia-Florida weekend, the FAMU homecoming, the FSU homecoming, and our kids are out there doing their thing while all this other stuff is going on. So it just is a tribute to their dedication. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Surton.
Thank you. I'd be remiss if I didn't give a nice little shout out to the Littlewood Elementary School's 4th grade class. They last week on Friday had the musical Pirates, the musical, and they invited us over to attend that, and it was quite magical to be in the Angelo Terrell theater there, I think is what they call it, the Terrell Performing Arts Center. Ms. Terrell has had such an impact on the arts, and the students did a wonderful job presenting that musical there. It was so, I think there was so much pent-up energy post-COVID for them being able, I think they said that was their first production since the pandemic, and it was just a magical time to be in there and to see the energy of the students as well as the staff that worked so hard with them to put that production on, and their families to be able to come in and to see that for them. And it was fantastic. It was a wonderful showing there on Friday morning. So I give good kudos to Mr. John Jacobson and Roger Emerson, who were the authors of that play, as well as the teachers, Miss B and Miss Booton, Miss Moncura, Miss Ratliff, and Miss Spence Thomas was her name, the 4th grade teachers who organized that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other announcements? We've now set aside 15 minutes for citizen input. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board. And if you don't get a chance, which I think you probably will, but if you don't get a chance to speak at this time, we'll have another opportunity after the business meeting has concluded. So I have not received any requests to speak. We have one phone call, so if we could go ahead with that. Thank you.
Caller, please state your name. You have 3 minutes with the board.
Yes, sir. Hi, my name is Talissa. Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead with your comment.
Okay, hello. My name is Talissa, and I'm calling about my daughter's school, and she goes to a school that is a turnaround school, and she just now returned to school from having RSV. And the teacher, this is not the first time that she's been out extended, and the teacher will put zeros in when she is not there. And we will make up the work, and she will never fix the grade. My daughter is just now getting her ESC services, and my daughter has even asked for her ESC services per her IEP. The teacher has been using grades as threats. She told my son that when my daughter returns, she has several tests that she better make up. When my daughter returns Monday, she told my daughter that she has tests she's going to make up this week. To my knowledge, that she has 2 weeks. A student making F, and the teacher doesn't care. My daughter used to be proud to go to school. My daughter doesn't care. If students make bad grades, they also get dojo points taken away. This depletes the behavior system of the dojo. What sense does that make? The dojo was supposed to be there for behavior. The teacher doesn't care about teaching the kids and them understanding the material. My daughter gets zeros. She comes home and we have to teach her because she doesn't understand, and the teacher doesn't let her raise her hand. We made up the work one time, and my daughter sat here till 11 o'clock at night. Her bedtime is 7. She ate dinner doing the work because she wanted to make the teacher proud. She wanted to make the teacher proud, and she wanted to get her grades fixed from the time that she was out. The teacher never fixed her grades. How sad is that? A straight A student now making F, and the teacher doesn't care. Now, I want to end this on a positive note. My son's teacher, Miss Porter, at Idlewild Elementary, that teacher is super fabulous, wonderful. The teacher invests her time in her students. All her students are happy. Her students are well educated.
Sorry, your 3 minutes have expired.
And
Thank you. I hope y'all have a great day.
And we do have the contact information. Okay, would you be able to get that to, would it be Ms. Wise? Okay, thank you. Okay, we have no more phone calls. I don't have any forms, so we're going to move ahead to the consent agenda. Superintendent Andrew.
Thank you, Chairman Hyatt. The superintendent recommends that the school board approve the consent agenda as described in items 2 through 5, 7 through 10, and 12.
Do I have a motion for that? Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Surden, seconded by Dr. McNeely. Any discussion?
I had one question for Mr. Andrew and possibly Ms. Steptoe. With the UNICEF grant, I noticed that was in here, and I'm wondering the timeline with that, because it seems that a lot of that, it's kind of already in place. There's some staffing and things of that nature, but the timing of that coming to the board before we actually start operating out of the grant, it seems like it would come to the board a little bit earlier for approval before, or is this a modification? So I'm wondering.
No, ma'am, this is the original grant application.
Okay. Is it a little bit later than usual, or?
The approval is about the time that it normally is. We usually get it in October. The process started a few weeks later than usual. We usually start this process earlier in July. Okay. We didn't receive the list of eligible schools and their applications until the last week of July. We worked with the schools throughout the month of August and September, compiling their needs assessment, putting in their activities, doing their budgets, and then pulling it all together for submission to the Bureau of School Improvement.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. So, okay, started a little bit later. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Ms. Turney, action item number 1.
Good evening, Chairman Hyatt, members of the board, Superintendent Andrew. Action item number 1 is adoption of new and amended policies. This is a second reading. The board held a workshop on these policies on September 7th of 22, a first reading on September 20th of 22, and a public hearing on October 18th of 22 to discuss, consider, and receive input on various amendments to and adoption of new policies. These proposed amendments and adoptions are to conform to legislative changes, staff recommendations, and eliminate redundant and obsolete language. The proposed adoption and amendments are summarized in the provided statement of purpose and effect and set forth in the attached policies. Of note, though, is we did have some previous discussion about potentially pulling a few of these for prior to or up to today based on a court case regarding House Bill 7 and an injunction based on Florida Statute 760.10, but in further review and discussion with Neola, the language is duplicate from that statute in 1000.05 that is not related to the actual injunction, and very recently the Department of Education, the Florida Department of Education, did some additional rulemaking and added some of this language into that new rule that is going to be taking effect in a few weeks. So at this point, we left each of those policies within it, and the superintendent is recommending that the board approve the proposed adoption of new and amended board policies as set forth in the provided documents, including those policies as well.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Is there a second? Motion by Ms. Surden, seconded by Ms. Russell. Dr. Paulson.
Now, the bylaws are in this thing, right? Part of the policy, sir. The bylaws, you got, when you go in, you got all these policies and bylaws. Could you explain 0144, the new term for the board members?
Yes, may I respond?
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Oh.
The amendment to policy 0144 is based directly on statutory changes and the new legislative changes that state that a person may not appear on the ballot for re-election to the office of board member if by the end of their current term of office the person will have served, but for resignation would have served in that office for 12 consecutive years. And it's saying that service of a term of office which commenced before November 8, 2022 will not be counted towards this limitation. So once this law passed, we're at starting now, 12 years, and you cannot be re-elected.
So the person could start now, and everything else is a freebie for the thing. So you can go to 12 years more.
Correct. If you are a sitting board member currently, you can start that clock ticking of the 12 years as of November 8th of this year.
What's this, the person will have served, but for resignation would have served?
So if a board member was to resign prior to the end of their term in this 12-year window, that time still counts. So you can't resign a year before and then decide to run again. If you are at, say, 11 years, you resign with 1 year left in your term, and then you decide you want to run again because you didn't serve 12 consecutive years. That's what that's addressing.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Surton.
Thank you. Ms. Turney, I looked at the policy that were there. We had the blanks in there, so that's not my question, but my question is on, and this is really more for, 5121 policy, and I guess this will really be, I think it's 5121. I got so many posters in here, bear with me.
Got that at page 168.
Right. I had a question about transportation in one of these policies because it's not like it almost is like we will provide transportation, and I'm thinking we need some language in here that gives us the option, given the challenges that we're experiencing now in our transportation department and the budgetary constraints that we're having, that we may not do that. But I'm sorry.
I got another question.
And my understanding, and I'm not sure exactly where that is, and I'm not sure if you have a page number on that, but I believe the way it's stated is that transportation will be provided in accordance with any laws. So it's only when we have a mandatory legal requirement to provide transportation in certain situations.
That's page 175. That is how it reads. I misread it. When you read it just now, I see I read it wrong. So that was there. And then my second question I have on page 186, I think is more for the staff on my left, possibly, about the portfolio. It's item G. And I'm wondering, the way it's reading now is that a portfolio is indeed is an option, not an option, it's like it's required now. It's in the policy that the student, if they're behind, that the teacher will start to put together the portfolio. It's not like the parent has to ask for that. Is that correct, Ms. Fries, now? And that's in our staff?
Sorry, I haven't gotten to that page yet, but yes, that's a practice in place.
Okay, that is in place, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you for that. And then we're going to be discussing, that's all my questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Pauls.
You know what, just reading this, and okay, we hire instructional personnel, they have a probation period, right? During the probation period, they can be let go without cause. But what's the difference in that and now that they don't have protection after that? I mean, did this teacher have any protection now? It used to be we had professional services contract. Now, the people that already had it are still on it. Well, what about people we hire? What's the difference in that?
Is there a specific policy that you're referring to?
Well, I was trying to, if I had it, trying to find one. Well, I think just in general, I'm wondering what we do to protect our teachers.
And I'd have to pull the actual statutory language, but if hired after a certain year, and I believe it's 2011,
Right.
teachers are hired on annual contract. However, there are some protections written into both the statutes as well as our collective bargaining agreement that require certain things happen prior to a termination.
I like
and
that.
There's due process.
The one of you could get with me, I'd like to see that, okay? Because I'm really concerned about it. It's, we're worried about bringing in teachers, but then we need to protect them. And if that's the case, either one of you can get with me after the meeting, all right? I'd appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Paulson. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Mr. Rella.
Thank you, Chairman Hyatt. Action item number 2 is the approval of the general fund, the first general fund budget amendment for the new fiscal year from the period of September 6th, which is when the board adopted the budget, to September 30th. The superintendent recommends the board approve the budget amendment as presented.
Okay, do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Ms. Surton, seconded by Dr. McNeely. I'll recognize Ms. Surton for discussion.
Thank you. And I actually just pulled this. I did have a conversation with our chief of finance and our superintendent. And the reason I pulled this is we've got our current fund balance assigned and unassigned at 2.56. And I picked myself up off the floor because it was below 3%. And Mr. Rella and Mr. Andrew talked me down off the cliff, trying to talk me down from being very frantic about the matter. I was concerned because in our current policy it states that once that we get below 3%, that the board is supposed to be presented with a written plan as to how we're going to bring corrective action to get above that. And I'm told that's to be forthcoming, but I wanted this condition and this for us all to be, I know you guys are leaving and you're saying.
I've been aware of it for you know. How many times have I talked to you about this the last few years?
Sir, we have not been at this point right here. So we've talked about that and
We've been talked to.
Sir, we have talked as colleagues equally together, so you don't talk down to me.
Fucking does, tell me what.
Let's see if
We've spoken about this as colleagues together, and we have discussed our financial condition, and our chief of finance has not instructed us that decisions that this board have voted upon in a majority would put us in this precarious situation. So we are here where we are with a budgeted amount of 258, and I pulled this item so that it would come forth as that. You have expressed your concerns, I've expressed mine. So, as I said, I've had a conversation with our chief of finance and our superintendent, and I have just, and I pulled it because I don't feel that our policy has been followed, which is on, which is an adopted board policy, which existed before I came, and I brought light to it, wanted to bring light to that because I think that is the direction that we need to go, and I've been assured that is what is going to happen. So those are my comments. Mr. Rella may want to add some additional commentary, but it is something that we will discuss in tomorrow's workshop. But that is the reason. I just want this kind of to be part of the record. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Paulson.
No, I mean, it's board policy 6233. And it's,
She's asking him to speak into the mic so she could hear him.
I'm just saying, I mean, we're gonna hear about it. I mean, I'm not gonna say anything except for, remember, I've tried to tell you guys a lot of times and you just ignored me.
Mr. Andrew.
Thank you, Chairman Hyatt. Yes, the financial condition ratio will be addressed. I'm working on a recovery plan and we'll bring it to the school board soon. And as Vice Chair Surton said, tomorrow we'll be having a budget update and we'll dig into kind of how we got here, where we're at, and what we're going to do moving forward. Certainly there's some options on the table, and some of those options include, but there could be more. We've done some researching on expenditures that we use to support us and support our schools and our students via the general fund during the pandemic. I guess the point of contention of whether we're in a pandemic or not would be left up to others that have PhDs, not me, but we had some expenses that we just paid for right out of the general fund, and I think we'll bring those to light to our board. But certainly reimbursements from the American Rescue Plan are a possibility, as we have done in the past. We've transferred capital from, or we've had increases via transfers from capital outlay. We've looked at reductions in staffing, and all of this will be on the table, certainly looking at how we're hiring, and that will be brought forth. So other things that we can certainly look at is our 1 mil funding for media specialists, guidance counselors, positions like that. We've had an increase in 1 mil, as we all know, due to the increase in property taxes this past school year. So there's additional funding on the table there. So we're going to take a real close look at where we've come from, where the funds were spent, what was spent specifically to support our kids throughout this pandemic, and we'll be coming back to the board with that plan. And we're definitely moving quickly on it, so we'll get that on an agenda soon.
Thank you, Superintendent Andrew. I'm going to go right back to Dr. Paulson. But before I do, Mr. Rella, did you have anything you wanted to add? I know you're going to be speaking tomorrow, or we can just wait for tomorrow.
Sure. So obviously there's a lot of discussion we're going to have tomorrow. We've already had a lot of discussion this year through workshops and other presentations. In terms of the policy, just to clarify for the rest of the board, and again, we'll talk through this tomorrow, but the policy has set certain thresholds, 5% for the superintendent to develop a plan of recovery, 3%. There's DOE notification, and again, a separate plan to DOE, but it's important to mention that in terms of the policy is triggered when the projected fund balance is expected to dip below those thresholds. Again, we're going to talk to this in much more detail tomorrow, but we do not project the ending fund balance to be below 3%. Thus, we are not notifying Department of Ed and kind of triggering those things. I just want to clarify that. And I'll save the rest of my words for tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pauls.
Yeah, and I'd just like to compliment the superintendent for having the preparation he has right now. Makes me feel good. So that you have that preparation. I'm sure it'll be interesting to hear tomorrow what we can come up with, but from what I hear you saying, you've prepared pretty well. And you weren't exactly left a very good situation. So you've done a very good job. Thank you, Mr. Andrew.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Paulson. And I will say that the board as a whole really has pushed the envelope and tried to do the best we can in a salary situation for our employees who are extraordinarily important. I mean, they're vital, and this board has, I think, done the right thing in maximizing what we can provide for employees, and so that's all part of what I'm sure we'll be continuing to look at, and so I thought that was worth commenting on. Any other comments?
No, it's very good.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Next is 11, which is now action item 3. Ms. Neal.
Good evening. Action item 3 is the approval of the FEFP, FTE, and transportation audit for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. The superintendent recommends that the board approve the Florida Education Finance Program Full-Time Equivalent, or FTE, student enrollment and student transportation audit report for the fiscal year ending in June 30th, 2021 as presented.
Do I have a motion to accept that?
So moved.
Is there a second? Motion by Ms. Surton, seconded by Ms. Russell. I'll go to Ms. Surton to start discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I pulled this off because I really don't think any of the audits should be on consent agenda. I think they should all be action item. That's the first thing. The second reason, or another reason I pulled it off is I want to, I'm not sure if you guys looked through this, but looking at in the FTE part where Williams, Shell, the instructional minutes that they were short. I think Norton was another one. So that's concerning to me. That's the first thing. And then the other issue are the issues with the charter schools and their FTE. I had a conversation with Ms. Neal because I was wondering if the district had to absorb or eat those costs, or that if DOE claws back the FEFP money that's associated with the FTEs that were overstated at the charters. I see mention in here of some type of appeal. I think the board needs to be kept abreast of that, if that goes positively or negatively, whatever happens with that, because it seems like they're asking for guidance. I don't guess it's been done yet, when I read the letter.
The appeal has not yet been done. I actually just spoke with the auditor's office today to help guide that charter in that appeal process. They've directed me to another office to also talk to, and then we will start that appeal process with that charter school.
So has there been any discussion, any internal discussion between yourself, Mr. Rella, and with the charter school operator, that what happens if their appeal is denied?
The charter school is aware that if the appeal is denied, they are the ones responsible for that cost. So there have been conversations about that. At the time the appeal goes in, it puts that cost on hold, is the way that it has been explained. And then that appeal process would happen to then get a final decision.
Okay, so you said when it's been put on hold, meaning that like there's been no financial transaction yet between, I guess, like them pulling back money or withholding money from this current year's FEFP is that what you mean? And so is there something written that's like in our policy that's guiding this, how this would happen? Because, like I don't want the charter school to say, oh, well, this is going to put us in a terrible bind and we didn't know this would happen. Like, do we have written policy, administrative procedures or anything like that?
I am not aware of a policy, but the statute does address some of that.
Right, so a lot of that stuff is spelled out in statute and then provided by means of technical assistance to my office, of course, and then with Kim, since she handles more of the technical side. But in terms of the charter process, it's a little bit different than us. We have an appeal process, they have an appeal process. I can tell you that our appeal process tends to get adjudicated much quicker than the charter schools do. It tends to be significant lag time. For example, I think Bullware is an audit finding from the last cycle, which would have been 3 years ago, and we still have not had a resolution on that. In terms of how we handle the payment side of the house, they will not withhold funding until the audit is finalized for the charter schools. So kind of how it works is they include those audit adjustments in our final calculation. So we have really 5 calculations of the budget, calcs 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then there's a final calculation after all the adjustments have been made statewide. And just so the board understands, we actually received that calculation for last year this week. So there's, again, it's a lot of lag in terms of how the funding is handled, and they have to get all the audit findings and all the adjustments for all the counties, so it does tend to take a little bit of time. But this is certainly not our first time handling an audit issue with a charter school, and we have withheld funding. We have processes in place to do that. I know we've been in communication with the charter operator. The ramifications financially for them if this if they do not have a successful appeal will be very bad. So we're, hopefully they get some kind of a resolution, but we're certainly going to be keeping an eye on that.
Thank you. I was wondering about that. And then lastly, the teacher certifications for folks working out of field. Have we looked in-house to make sure we tighten that up? That was, Mr. Rella mentioned the previous audit, that was something that came up also as a finding in the previous audit that we had, I recall. So are we kind of tightening up how we do things internally to kind of make sure that if someone is working out of field, that it's been properly approved and we know that, and the parent has been notified so that it's not a finding going forward?
I'm going to refer that to Mr. Shelnut as he handles the HR side of that, but we do have all of those procedures in place, but I'll let him address that more specifically.
Thank you, Chair Certain. Yes, ma'am, we do communicate with the schools. That's really the first part of it, is having that information that's reported from the schools so that that can be placed on the employment items, which is usually number 2. Excuse me, number 2 on the consent agenda and each thing. So that's usually the first place where that starts, and we do remind our school principals of the importance of doing that and providing that. Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you very much, both Mr. Shelnut and Ms. Neal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Okay, we are back to citizen input. I have not received any requests to speak. Do we have any phone calls? We don't. In that case, we'll move ahead to board members' superintendent requests. Do I have any requests? Okay, seeing none, we are adjourned.